Hey guys, so I wanted to do this as a screencast where I'm showing you what's on the screen, and technology is not working with me today, so I am just making a video on my phone, and I'm going to upload it, and we'll talk about the culminating task for this course. So I'm just opening up, and it might be a good idea to have another tab open where you're going through the content with me. So I am looking at Unit 5, Activity 1, the blog, and I just wanted to take a few minutes to give you a sense of where all of this is going. So right now you are writing a series of blog posts about the book that you're reading, and your second one is due on Monday. And in your second blog post, what you are doing is, I'm clicking on the assignment page now, blog post number 2, which, just to be annoying, is assignment number 3, because why not? So it's Unit 5, Activity 1, assignment number 3, blog post number 2, applying archetypal literary theory. So I would strongly encourage you to make sure that you've gone back through the PowerPoint on archetypal literary theory and you've done the additional readings from Unit 1. And I've given you some guiding questions here to help you, but first of all, they're not all going to be relevant for your book, and secondly, the intent is not that you answer all of these questions for a blog post. Keep in mind, for the criteria, you're looking at about 750 words, but honestly, I'm not that picky about word count. I think earlier it said 500 words somewhere else. That's fine, 500, 750, whatever. It's okay, just more than 200, okay? But you need to contain direct references to your text with in-text citations. You need to have well-developed sentences and paragraphs, so I don't want to see one long paragraph. You need to keep your level of language informal and conversational. Should be written in first person. And here's the big thing. I want you to make observations that go deeper than the surface level of the text. Like, I don't want you to just say, wow, there's water imagery in here. Water is an archetypal symbol for rebirth. Cool. But I want you to do more than that. So if you say, you know, water is an archetypal symbol, it means rebirth, tell me why that's interesting when it comes to your book. Like, how does that help you understand the book better? What might it suggest about the book? Keep in mind that novels are things that are created by an individual for a specific purpose. So sure, sometimes when writers write things, they're just kind of accidental. But a good writer, and that's why we chose these books for you, a good writer is making conscious choices all the time about the words and the imagery and the literary devices that they use to try and communicate a certain idea. It's basically like a person building a house is going to choose specific tools for the construction of that house, depending on what tasks they're working on at the time. And a writer has a lot of tools that they have at their disposal too. And a good writer is making conscious choices about how and when and why they use those tools. Okay. So your blog posts are about you kind of thinking about this and playing around with ideas. And eventually what you're going to do, like, you can look ahead to what your other blog posts are, but eventually what you're going to do is you're going to decide which literary theory gave you the most to work with in terms of interesting ideas. And then what you're going to do is you are going to put together a digital portfolio, which is a collection of pieces where you explore a thesis. So you are going to come up with a thesis. So now I'm looking at Unit 5, Activity 2, called Planning the Portfolio. So if you're following along with me, which would be a good idea, you should click on that now. Okay. So in this activity, it talks about what different portfolios are, and you are going to have a portfolio that contains a variety of different texts where, and I put this in red on here, you identify, describe, and explain insights taken from your book when you applied a particular literary theory. Your portfolio will have a thesis that guides each work that you do for it. Okay, so you probably are used to a thesis as being the probably the last paragraph in the introduction of an essay. So a thesis can be something that you create for an essay, but it's not just for an essay. So in this case, you're creating a thesis for the portfolio. So your thesis is going to be some sort of statement that you create about what you are able to learn, or what meaning you're able to make from the text when you apply a particular literary theory. So it's something like, you know, when looking at the English patient from an archetypal point of view, it becomes clear that the author is exploring how, and I can't finish that because I'm totally just making this up off the top of my head right now. But do you see what I'm saying in terms of how you would set up that thesis statement? Then what you do is you are going to create 3 different texts that help to support that thesis statement. So, I've given some examples in the past, and I'm going to do that again this time round. Let me just check and see. But before I do that, I want you to understand that you need to choose a website creator, and there are some options on here. So Weebly, Wix, I've used both of those. There are 2 others on here, Cravado and Dunked, that I'm not familiar with. You can use, if you know of a different one that you want to use, you are welcome to use that as well. You only need to worry about this when we're getting sort of toward the end of the course, but I want you to keep in mind that you are going to be creating a website where you showcase 3 different texts that you create. So I definitely have an exemplar from last year, and I think what I'll do after I create this video and upload it is I will post the link to the exemplar from last year, or last semester actually. So one of the, I've given you a structure that you can follow when you're creating the thesis for your entire portfolio, and I've even given you an exemplar. So I said, like pretending you were doing this for Hamlet, which you're not. When analyzing Hamlet from a feminist perspective, it becomes clear that Shakespeare depicts women as subversively strong. Both Gertrude and Ophelia attempt to take charge of their own destinies, even though they are ultimately unsuccessful. And then I said for my portfolio, I would do something like this. A personal narrative essay comparing my own experiences as a young woman trying to assert myself in relationships to the way Ophelia does. A podcast with me and a friend, one of us playing Ophelia, one playing Gertrude, discussing how we attempted to assert our own power. And a remix of Mary J. Blige's Good Woman Down song with quotations from Gertrude, or quotations about Gertrude and Ophelia, and images that represent the consequences that women face when trying to take control of their destinies. So it's pretty creative, but all of these different pieces all go together to support one particular thesis, okay? All right, so I just want you to have that in the back of your mind, that that is the purpose, like that's ultimately what you're going to be creating, and that's why you are writing these blog posts right now for your novel. So like I said, I'm going to post an exemplar so you can take a look at it and get some ideas, start getting ideas now for what you're going to do for your course culminating task. And keep in mind, you got a lot of work that you've got due next week, so you should be doing some homework this weekend. And I wish you the best of luck, and we'll talk to you on Monday.